Hi, my name's Scott Hebbard from Sparx Systems, and today I'd like to demonstrate how Enterprise Architect can be used to build traceable wireframes for mobile applications and web pages using Enterprise Architect 12. This webinar will show you how to build a prototype using wireframes. Learn how to review designs, make comparisons, elicit feedback, and clarify requirements. Build a user interface with checkboxes, radio buttons, collapsible lists, on-screen keyboards, realistic data, and much more. Verify and maintain traceability by creating links to strategic models, requirements, use cases, and business rules. Target multiple platforms including Apple, Android, and web-based applications. Wireframes are an inexpensive method of designing mobile applications, helping to elicit feedback, reduce errors, save time, and improve software quality. Imagine that we've been hired to design a mobile application for a real estate company. The purpose of the application is to help real estate agents better manage property listings from remote locations, allowing staff to spend more time with their customers. On screen, we have a series of functional requirements that govern all aspects of application design, including hardware support, adhering to iOS design guidelines, support for dual screen orientation, and user authentication. I shall start by building a login page to help satisfy our authentication requirement. The example will help me explore the process of building a user interface design for a mobile application. On screen, you'll see an Android wireframe that I prepared earlier. I'll repeat this process for an Apple device to illustrate how easy it can be to build a wireframe in Enterprise Architect. Select the Apple Wireframing Toolbox, which is available under the More Tools menu. The Toolbox provides popular wireframes for many different types of iPads and iPhones. Select from convenient pre-built application patterns that can help save time, or simply customize one of the many Apple controls to suit your individual needs. When building a wireframe, I find it easier to use a grid in conjunction with alignment tools to lay out controls and get the desired result. The grid is available under the Tools Options menu. Using the grid is optional and is not needed to build a wireframe, however I find it quite helpful. The Toolbox provides a variety of different wireframes for both iPads and iPhones. To start our login page, select an iPad Air and drag it onto the diagram. Choose the portrait orientation when releasing the mouse. Enterprise Architect supports portrait and landscape orientation for all mobile wireframes. It is beneficial to give your wireframe a meaningful name, as this can help with traceability and identification throughout your project. I've established links between UI elements and their corresponding requirements, helping to maintain traceability and justify key design decisions. Many of the buttons on screen help to justify our authentication requirement. Drag and drop Apple controls onto the screen, making changes to their tagged values and name, which will in turn impact how those elements are rendered on screen. Place a couple of buttons, images, and text fields on screen to capture the username and password. Align and resize interface controls as required to enhance their appearance. Drag and drop images on screen to insert backgrounds, borders, company logos, and other visual design elements that will improve the appearance of your wireframe. The border at the bottom of the page can be replaced by a keyboard when the user enters their username and password. Mobile applications often have limitations that impact resolution and design that are only noticed once a wireframe is built. Finally, link the requirements to their corresponding UI components. One of the benefits of building a wireframe is the ability to review designs and engage key stakeholders to elicit feedback. Upon reviewing the login screen, developers used an element discussion to highlight the fact that the interface does not support users who forget their password. Software quality can be improved if this feedback is gathered early in the development lifecycle, saving both time and money. We shall now extend our original design to include an additional screen that will allow users to reset their password. I shall begin by creating a new package and a diagram. Enterprise Architect 12 supports a number of new diagram types, including an Apple, Android, dialog, and web page wireframe. For this particular example, I chose to create an Apple wireframe. To save time, I am going to adapt one of the pre-built patterns that ships with Enterprise Architect 12. The iPhone 6 Plus pattern provides a login screen with a keyboard that can be adapted to suit our needs. Remove and adapt the interface to produce a viable prototype in just minutes. This rudimentary design will elicit feedback around the business process and security implications for resetting a password, which in turn will help clarify our requirements. The next step is to create a clear path so developers understand when this dialog will be shown. The easiest way to do this is to create a new button on the login page, and from that button, link to a composite diagram. Use this technique to illustrate how your mobile application transitions from one screen to the next. After staff log in, they need to examine property listings within each suburb. On screen, I've provided some sample property listings. Double-click any wireframe element to make changes. Once again, we can adapt an existing iPhone pattern to convert a simple shopping list into our property listing. Text can be changed and moved with a few keystrokes. The redesigned common property dialogs in Enterprise Architect 12 provide a better user experience, and the Wireframes tab helps to simplify the editing process. Wireframes are fully traceable to other modeling elements such as requirements and use cases for complete end-to-end model design, providing customers, managers, developers, and key stakeholders with a complete picture of how the user will interact with the system. I've now updated the list to describe a few suburbs in the UK. It is very easy to add and remove list items. To update labels, I simply double-click the label and edit the name. I can change the text alignment using a simple drop-down list. It is also very easy to edit buttons and remove the status bar altogether. Enterprise Architect can create lists, radio buttons, scroll bars, media players, and much more. Enterprise Architect 12 includes a navigation toolbar which provides instant access to diagrams and helps you keep track of your current model context. The navigation bar is a convenient alternative to the project browser. Let's use the navigation toolbar to open a diagram that will illustrate how real estate staff can submit information about properties. This dialog will be launched from the web, Android, or Apple-based applications. The wireframe includes a note to inform developers about potential international implications because the term zip code is not appropriate for the Australian or European market. Enterprise Architect can trace these decisions to inform the development team and improve software quality. We need to update the form to include information about state and provinces. I'm using a text box rather than a drop-down list to cater for our international audience and provide more flexibility. Finally, I'll include a checkbox to establish if the property in question is a rental property. We've now successfully used Enterprise Architect to build a wireframe for an Android and Apple device, and have also created a dialog that can be used in a web-based application. We have used Enterprise Architect to create wireframes for various mobile platforms with tight integration to notes, requirements, and use cases. It is also possible to integrate wireframes with other model elements including business processes and strategic models. Let's look at some examples. The first strategic model uses a simple decision tree to identify which mobile platforms will be supported within our real estate application. This type of strategic model can help explain complex decision-making in a simple yet transparent manner. The next strategic model uses a state machine to map out how the interface of the phone will change with each corresponding state. The contact and call state are shown on screen. Contacts are listed alphabetically and can be easily updated to cater for our individual needs. Various elements of our interface have been linked to requirements and use cases. We can use the traceability window to verify that our design satisfies each requirement and that any unexpected design decisions can be justified. The end result is better quality user interface design and software. Every wireframe element will have tagged values that may impact the appearance of that element. For example, we can turn the networking switch on or off. We can also drive downstream development by going from a wireframe to a use case to a structured scenario and then automatically generate an activity diagram or a test case. This information may be extremely beneficial. Create an activity diagram that may be later analysed by a BA or members of the development team. Enterprise Architect 12 has introduced a number of new tools to help build wireframes for web-based applications. The example on screen might be familiar to people who visit the Sparx Systems website. Let's adapt this existing website to create a web portal for staff at the real estate company. We begin by altering some of the images and editing the text where appropriate. Text is often stored in a memo tag, so it's quite easy to make changes. Remove any unnecessary user interface elements, changing the URL and adding a scroll bar as appropriate. The web page wireframe allows you to establish a quick layout prototype in minutes to elicit feedback and improve the final design of your website. Finally, let's design an Android application that uses a tab design that can access common roles undertaken by real estate staff. The tabbed interface will serve three main purposes: to display media for the property, to schedule a property inspection, and submit a sales inquiry. We begin by adding a tab host to our Android wireframe. On the first tab, we'll place a media player to display video of the property in question. Now let's use a second wireframe to display the contents of our second tab. Usually I'd use a composite diagram to link them together, but I'll show all three tabs side by side for convenience. Use a drop-down list to enable a given tab. The second tab can be used to select a date and time for a property inspection. The date and time picker varies between the Android and Apple interfaces. The final tab will include an inquiry form that will allow staff to track any sales inquiries when they return to the office. So the application can display media, book appointments, and log any sales questions from a remote location. All aspects of the design can be traced to requirements and discussed in order to improve the quality of the software design. In this webinar, we have examined how wireframes can be used to develop prototype applications for mobile devices, including Android, Apple, and web-based applications. Using element discussions, we reviewed designs to elicit feedback and clarify requirements, just as we did with the forget password example. We used images, tabs, and buttons to design realistic interfaces for a number of different devices. We have established how wireframes can be linked and integrated with business rules, strategic models, requirements, and use cases for better traceability. And finally, we targeted multiple platforms including Android, Apple, Dialog, and the web. For more information on wireframing or Enterprise Architect 12, please visit www.sparxsystems.com.